CX professionals are pretty busy people, and it's sometimes difficult to dedicate some time to professional development. Of course, there's the CX Leader podcast, but sometimes you just need some quick, practical advice on how to run your program. Well, we might just have the thing. In a couple of weeks, we'll be premiering a new feature, the CX Leader Quick Tips Minicast. These will be short how-to episodes featuring Walker experts giving practical advice on running your XM program. No need to subscribe to anything new. We'll release them through this feed every couple of weeks. That's the CX Leader Quick Tips Minicast. Watch for the first episode in mid-September. Hello everyone, I'm Chris Higgins, producer of the CX Leader podcast with another episode of our Summer Encore Series, highlighting some of our favorite of the over 270 episodes of the CX Leader podcast. This week, we're reaching way back to episode 77, which dropped on July 19th, 2019, with guest Roberta O'Keith. Roberta did a great job describing how to start a CX program from scratch. It's a great CX 101 episode for anyone looking for ways to get a program off the ground. As always with our Encore series, please know that this particular episode is over 4 years old, so some details or situations might not be the same. But Roberta's insights are still valuable for someone looking to spin up a new program. And now, here's an encore presentation of Starting from Scratch. Enjoy!
If starting a new long-term project from scratch seems like a daunting task, imagine what it's like for a CX program.
Really, the very first thing was to come in and educate the leadership on what is customer experience, how is it different from customer service, looking at what are the key components that make a customer experience program be successful.
Building a customer experience initiative from the ground up on this episode of the CX Leader podcast.
The CX Leader podcast with Steve Walker is produced by Walker, a business consulting firm that helps our clients unlock the potential of their customer experiences by placing the customer at the heart of all their business decisions. You can find out more at walkerinfo.com.
Hello everyone, I'm Steve Walker, the host of the CX Leader podcast, and thank you for listening. On the CX Leader podcast, we explore topics and themes to help leaders like you leverage all the benefits of your customer experience and help your customers and prospects want to do more business with you. We've been taking the time in our last few episodes to review some best practices in the CX field with some amazing guest practitioners who helped us unpack how they put those tips and tricks to work. However, many of those examples were within the context of a CX initiative that was already up and running. What if you don't have a customer experience program or you're brand new to the process? How do you get your CX program working from the ground up? Well, our guest on this episode has a particular talent in that area. Roberta O'Keith is the customer experience leader at Murphy-Hoffman Company, a full-service truck dealership operating in 16 states with over 100 dealerships. Roberta, thanks for being on the CX Leader podcast.
Thanks, Steve. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I've never met you in person, but certainly know about you and your company through the industry and appreciate you being on the podcast. Maybe for the benefit of our listeners, could you just tell us a little bit about your own personal background and how long you've been at Murphy-Hoffman and how you got into the CX space?
Sure. I've been in the customer experience space for most of my career. I actually started off back in high school doing phone surveys for a local auto dealership for the Toyota Corporation. So calling customers and asking how their service was done was my first taste of market research. And so my career grew in the marketing and sales business development area and ended up in working for GE Consumer Finance in the Chicago area and moved then to Kansas City about 12 years ago and worked for GE Power and Water, where we started and grew a voice of customer program within the power industry for that particular business unit. So been with Murphy-Hoffman for the last 7 months. And so fairly new to the company, and the company is new to learning more about what customer experience is. So this role was brand new for them. And so this was a great opportunity to start something from scratch and basically start with a piece of paper and figure out what does customer experience really mean for the Murphy-Hoffman Group.
So a couple things you said are pretty intriguing. You're one of the first CX pros I've ever met that actually came up to be a CX pro. Most of them kind of got there by accident. So you're actually a kind of a part of a new generation here of people that actually started out and have had their whole career there. And then what's really interesting, I assume you were recruited to Murphy-Hoffman to build this program, right?
Yes, I was.
So, and was that their intent? Was that exactly what they were out looking for, or did you sell them on the idea? How'd that occur?
Yep. So they actually had a job posting and were looking for someone that had the expertise that could come in and kind of formulate what this program might look like for them. They had an idea, they had a job description, but they didn't really quite know exactly how to execute on that. And so they needed someone to kind of come in and really have that experience of operations, marketing, sales, developing voice of customer programs, thinking outside the box, and really building it from scratch. They had no context to go from other than knowing that their industry, they are number one in the industry of truck sales. And so they wanted a way to continue to remain number one, and they know that in order to do that is to improve the way they service their customers. And they know that's kind of where things are going with price competition and product. They're all the same down the road, and you can only decrease price so much before it really starts hitting, your operational goals. So we really needed to focus on developing a better way to service customers and build that loyalty and repeat business.
So Murphy-Hoffman, it's not a household name for everyone, but it is like the big truck dealer, like you think about Penske being the big auto dealer across the country, for example. Is that helpful for our listeners to think about?
Yes, we go by the brand MHC.
MHC.
And their locations are throughout the Midwest and the Southeast. And they are the largest Kenworth semi-truck dealership group in the nation, yes.
Yeah.
So think of us as a large auto dealership, but for the semi-truck industry, and particularly the Kenworth brand.
And you'd be selling to fleets and to owner-operators and the big companies that have their own fleets as well as the...
Correct.
Okay, so starting one of these things from scratch with a company that's never done it before, is that scary, exhilarating, or a little bit of both?
I would say a little bit of both. I came into the role very excited, and I thrive on the unknown. So I really enjoy coming in and creating something from scratch. So this role wasn't too scary.
You'd done it before, though, right?
Yes. Yeah, so there's been positions I've had in the past that were brand new to the business and trying to create that, but also creating a brand new voice of customer program or rebuilding voice of customer programs. I've done in the past.
Yeah, and I would just share from our side of the business, a lot of times I'd rather start from scratch, especially if you have all the right pieces, which we're going to talk about here, than try to retrofit a legacy system. So how'd you get started? What did you decide to focus on first?
So the program, again, hadn't been defined yet. So really the very first thing was to come in and educate the leadership on what is customer experience, how is it different from customer service, because those terms are thrown around quite a bit. And it was really a matter of sharing with them kind of thoughts and best practices that are out in outside industries and looking at what are the key components that make a customer experience program be successful. So the first 3 to 6 months is really focusing on educating the leadership team, getting the message out to the masses, because we've got quite a few branches throughout the U.S., over 100.
How many total employees across the company?
We have over 4,000 employees.
It's a massive communication effort.
Yeah. So really focusing on that whole socializing the idea of what customer experience is and how we define it for our customers and for our employees. And so coming up with that definition and then understanding how it ties back to our mission statement is critical so that everyone in the company understands the why. Why are we doing this? Why is Roberta here? So that was very important to establish up front.
And you mentioned educating and engaging your senior leadership, but it sounds like the fact that they threw this out and then recruited you, that you had good top-down support.
Yes, but as you come into an organization, they don't know what they don't know.
Correct.
So there is always that component of change management that's sometimes difficult to deal with. But, the management team overall is very supportive in this position, where we're going and what we're trying to do and accomplish for our customers.
So you said earlier that, that the leadership decided this is the way that they would try to differentiate themselves because they were already kind of a leader in, if you look at it by scope and scale. Can you talk a little bit more about that, sort of strategically, how they were thinking about that and, what they were trying to accomplish?
Sure. So in the trucking industry, it's very cyclical. And so right now we're doing really well. Truck sales are doing well. Companies are buying trucks for their fleets. So sales is doing very well, but we know that this is a cyclical business. So as that starts to taper down, where do we need to focus on revenue is, servicing our customers, having customers come in and have their preventative maintenances done on their trucks, having, the service and parts availability for them when they need them. And so we know that from past history of the cycle of the business, that parts and service is going to be a need to ensure we're still number one in providing that service and parts for our customers. So in order to do that, we need to look at how are we servicing our customers? How good or bad are we at servicing our customers? And so that's what prompted them to really bring somebody in and take a look at, how are we getting customer feedback? How are we measuring their satisfaction? And right now, quite a few auto dealerships and trucking dealerships use Google reviews as one of their main metrics to look at, because that's where their customers are looking at. The drivers, when they're looking for a local place to have service done on a truck, they're going to look on Google and search for the closest Kenworth dealership in their area, and what will pop up would be our dealership. And so looking at ratings and that were very important to incorporate into our feedback management program.
Yeah, so that would be what we'd kind of call some unsolicited types of information.
Yes.
So you've been at it for going on 7 months. Where are you in your journey, and what have you already accomplished, and what's planning for 2020 look like?
Yep. So we've done quite a bit of roadshow educational trainings throughout some of our main branches on what customer experience is and sharing them our vision and strategy. We've also accomplished a few journey mapping exercises with a couple of our large branches as well to help get the employees engaged in understanding what a customer journey is and what that might look like for our customers. And we are moving forward with looking at voice of customer platforms in order to capture customer feedback in various omni-channel ways. And we are also engaging in an employee internal survey to identify what the engagement is for our employees.
But you haven't really started to collect quantitative data yet?
We have some but
legacy?
We certainly can. Yeah, we certainly can expand that and improve that. Yes.
So this is one of my sayings, especially when they're kind of new to the customer experience problem. But obviously this is a successful company, so there has to be a lot of innate customer savvy within the organization. Did you find that?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of data that is available for us to use to really put together what that view of the customer looks like. But what we were lacking was just feedback direct from the customer to give us a true sense of how they think and feel and what their emotions are when going through their journey with us. And so one thing within our organization that we incorporated was a internal branding campaign around putting yourself in the driver's seat. So to get our employees really thinking more about how are our customers feeling and thinking when they walk in that door? How frustrated are they when their truck is broken down on the street, and they've had to get a tow truck driver to bring it into their shop, or if there's a part that's not available for them, rather than disregarding or not really showing empathy, we really are trying to drive that home to the frontline employees around really putting yourself out there and understanding how they're thinking and feeling so we can provide that excellent service in a consistent way.
My guest on the podcast this week is Roberta O'Keith. She is the Customer Experience Leader at Murphy-Hoffman Company, also known as MHC. Murphy-Hoffman Company is the largest truck dealership in North America. And we're having a fascinating discussion because Roberta has actually started up a program at this company basically from scratch. She's about 7 months into it. It sounds like this industry is somewhat immature, I guess, in terms of how they are looking at customer experience. I know you have a lot of other background, and you actually said you started in the car industry, which I would think that the car industry is very mature. Is that true?
So the car industry, I've worked for a couple of various organizations around that. And over the last 5 years, they've gotten definitely very good at their experience for their consumers when they come in. They've evolved quite a bit over the last 5 years. I would say this industry is probably a good 3 to 4 years behind.
And do you think that's just a function of being more business to business, kind of fleet driven as opposed to consumer?
Absolutely. I do think that, it's just like any heavy industrial or manufacturing type of organization that has a B2B customer base. This is one of those industries that's just a little bit behind, but it's moving forward. There are brands out there like the auto brands and the semi-truck brands like Kenworth that are looking to get more customer feedback so they can help drive better improvements within their service. And so, we're getting there. And Murphy-Hoffman is just one of those truck dealership groups that has taken the initiative to bring on someone that can really help them take them to that next level of customer service.
How would you describe the culture there? Is it a little more operational or as opposed to customer focused historically?
I would say our culture is very operational and metrics driven. We do have a strong culture around continuous improvement and safety. And so leveraging continuous improvement practices has helped this company move forward in driving process improvements, driving improved customer service, improving the way we think and look at how we approach safety, even in our dealership branches.
Yeah, that's a great example. And, not to date myself, but being around this business for a long time, some of these things, they do cycle through. So, an impact on continuous improvement, total quality management, lean principles. Safety is a great one because, everybody can get behind that, just like I think most logical people can get behind doing right by the customer. You mentioned your auto experience, and then you've talked about sort of the more industrial aspect of a truck dealer. Are there any other models that you've been looking at as you've conceived this program from scratch?
Sure. There's a couple of great best practices out there, like a Chick-fil-A or a Quick Trip. And the reason why we look at those two as one of the best practices out there for customer experience is how easy they make it to do business with them, how fast and efficient they service their customers. And so taking those elements and looking at how can we become faster, easier to do business with without substituting quality, but in a consistent manner. Because each of those brands that I just mentioned, you have a very consistent experience. You walk into a Chick-fil-A and you expect that it might take a little longer to get your food, but it's worth it. You're going to stand in line. They're efficient. They're going to greet you at the door. Same with a Quick Trip experience here in the Midwest. going into that gas station, you know it's going to be quick and easy to get through that line, and you're greeted as soon as you're walking in the door, and you know where to find the items that you're needing because they're laid out in the same way. So if we can apply those similar principles at our branches so that there's a consistent look and feel for our drivers when they come in the door, and they know where to go, they know who to talk to, they know what to expect when it's a particular service that may take 1 hour to 3 hours, that our lounges might look the same, that they have the same amenities at each of our locations. So some of those principles we're trying to incorporate across our business.
I think you did a great job of kind of throwing out the vision there for how you're going to apply this at a kind of a more old economy type of business. But what's the time frame, or what's the vision from you and your leadership about how long this initial phase takes?
Sure. So the initial phase, we do have a 1 to 2 to 3 year plan.
Yep.
And, as you know, with trying to change culture, it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 years to see any real evidence of change when you're implementing a program like this, because there's quite a bit we're doing. Just implementing a voice of customer program can take up to 18 months. So, we're slowly getting there. Again, if we can get our employees engaged in understanding this and really looking at putting themselves in their customer's shoes or in their driver's seat, as we say, we can really help them help the experience when customers walk in the door. Highly engaged employees equal better customer service, and that's what I've been pushing in our organization.
Roberta, you've done an awesome job of describing how you might go about starting up a whole program from scratch. What's your take-home value for our listeners? What are the really the key elements that you've learned through this experience that could be helpful to others in the profession?
I think the very first thing you need to do is to ensure that your leadership team and those that report to them are all on the same page, that they all understand and know what customer experience is for your organization. Define it. Really know what it looks like, smells like, feels like for your organization, and get it on paper and socialize it throughout your organization. The second thing is go out to your business, observe, do some meet and greets with various customers and understand what your business does so you can really get a sense of what your customers are going through. And then lastly, establish some standards and introduce new concepts like journey mapping, like voice of customer programs and voice of employee programs, and start pushing the envelope if they're not quite open to it, but can just keep at it. Be consistent, be persistent, and have faith that in the long run it will come together.
That's great. Thank you very much, Roberta, for being a guest on the podcast. One of the things we do on the podcast is we try to expand the community. So if listeners out there wanted to connect with you, I assume you're on LinkedIn?
Yep.
Okay, so they can find you. That's Roberta O'Keith, Keith, at Murphy-Hoffman Company. Roberta, thanks a lot for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
And if you want to talk about anything you heard on the episode or about how Walker can help you in your business customer experience, you can contact me at steve.walker@walkerinformation.com or call me here in the U.S. at +1 317 843 8890. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to the CX Leader podcast. You can go to walkerinfo.com/podcasts and you'll find links to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and we're even on our own YouTube channel as well. Simply go to walkerinfo.tv to listen. Thank you for listening to the CX Leader podcast, which is a production of Walker. We're a business consulting firm that can help you make customer experience your biggest competitive advantage. And, in case you haven't heard, we're also the 2019 Qualtrics CX Partner of the Year. Find out more at walkerinfo.com. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and we will see you again next time.